Betrayal cuts deep when it comes from someone you've known forever. Imagine your best friend, your ride or die, turning on you out of jealousy, spreading lies to ruin your dreams. This is a story of heartbreak, resilience, and proving the haters wrong. My name's Ethan Carter. I'm 27, and I live in Portland, Oregon, a city where every corner's got a coffee shop and a dreamer chasing something. I'm a photographer, the kind who's always got a camera slung over my shoulder, chasing the perfect light. Growing up, I was that kid sketching landscapes in notebooks, dreaming of capturing moments that'd make people feel something. My parents thought it was a phase, but by high school, I was selling prints at local markets, saving every penny for my first DSLR. Photography's my life, but it's a tough gig. Portland's got more creatives than baristas, and that's saying something. After college, I worked odd jobs, bartending, freelancing for small businesses. While building my portfolio, it wasn't glamorous. I was eating instant ramen most nights, but every click of the shutter felt like a step towards something bigger. My Instagram was my shop window, slowly gaining traction with moody landscapes and raw, honest portraits. By last year, I was finally getting noticed. Local galleries, a few ad agencies, even a wedding planner who paid me to shoot her client's big day. I wasn't rich, but I was making it work. The one constant through all this was my best friend, Dan. We met in third grade when he stole my Pokemon cards, then gave them back with an apology and a shared bag of chips. That was Dan. Charming, a little reckless, but loyal, or so I thought. We grew up together, him dreaming of being a musician while I chased light through my lens. He'd crash at my tiny apartment. We'd split cheap beers, and he'd hype up my photos like they were gallery-worthy. "Ethan, man, you're gonna be huge," he'd say. Strumming his guitar, I believed in him too, always showing up to his open mic nights, even when he flubbed the chords. Dan wasn't just a friend, he was family. My parents moved to Seattle when I was 20, and my sister's off in grad school, so Dan was the guy I'd call at 2 a.m. When life felt heavy. He got me through breakups, late rent, and the grind of building a brand in a city full of talent. When I landed my first big client, a local outdoor brand needing campaign shots, I told Dan before anyone else. He bought us around at our favorite dive bar, toasting to Ethan Carter. The next Ansel Adams. I laughed it off, but his belief in me meant everything. Looking back, I should have seen the cracks. Dan's music wasn't taking off like he hoped. He'd been gigging for years, but his SoundCloud had maybe 200 followers, and most were bots. He'd joke about it, but I could tell it stung. Meanwhile, my follower count was creeping up, and I was getting DMs from brands. I didn't think much of it. Success isn't a competition, right? I'd share my wins with him, thinking it'd inspire him, not spark something ugly. But jealousy's a quiet poison. It creeps in, festers, and before you know it, someone you trusted is holding a match to your life's work. It started small, but it snowballed into something I never saw coming. One day, I'm refreshing my inbox, waiting for a client's reply. The next, I'm staring at anonymous posts on X, calling me a fraud who photoshopped his entire portfolio. My stomach dropped, clients started ghosting me, my DMs filled with hate, and when I traced it back, the truth hit like a freight train. Dan, my best friend, was the one lighting the fire. Life before everything went south felt like I was finally hitting my stride. I was 27, living in a shoebox apartment in Portland's Alberta Arts District, where the walls were thin, but the vibe was electric. My place smelled like coffee grounds and old camera film, with prints taped to every surface like a chaotic gallery. I'd wake up to the hum of the city, food trucks, buskers, the occasional rain pattering on my window, and feel like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Photography was my obsession, my escape, my everything. I'd spend hours scouting locations, chasing golden hour light through forests or along the Willamette River, my Canon bouncing against my chest. Every shot was a chance to tell a story, to freeze a moment that'd outlive me. My parents were supportive in their own way, but they didn't get it. Dad's a retired mechanic, mom's a nurse, and they're practical people. When I dropped out of community college to focus on photography, Dad said, "Ethan, art's nice, but it don't pay the bills." I proved him wrong, slowly. By 26, I was freelancing full-time, shooting for local cafes, boutiques, and the occasional influencer who wanted authentic headshots. It wasn't steady. Some months I'd scrape by on $1,200, eating cereal for dinner, but when I landed a gig with a craft brewery for their ad campaign, I felt like I'd cracked the code. My Instagram was at 15,000 followers, and I was starting to get emails from bigger brands. Not bad for a kid who started with a secondhand Nikon. Dan was my anchor through it all. We'd been tight since we were 9, bonding over sneaking into R-rated movies and dreaming of getting out of our sleepy suburb. He was the guy who'd show up with a six-pack and a bad idea. Like the time we tried to camp in the gorge without a tent and ended up soaked and laughing in a diner at 3 a.m. Dan wanted to be a rock star, always strumming his beat-up Fender, writing songs about heartbreak and rebellion. He had the charisma for it, crooked smile, quick wit. But his gigs were mostly empty dive bars. I'd be there, front row, clapping louder than anyone, even when he forgot the lyrics. "You're gonna make it, man," I'd tell him, and he'd grin, saying, "Only if you shoot my album cover, Carter." We were each other's hype men. When I doubted myself, when a client trashed my edits or I missed a shot, Dan was there, telling me to keep going. "Your photos make people feel shit, Ethan. That's rare." I'd do the same for him, dragging friends to his shows, sharing his tracks on my stories. Our lives were intertwined. Like brothers, my actual family was scattered. Mom and dad in Seattle. My sister Mia studying marine biology in California. So Dan filled that gap. Holidays, birthdays, random Tuesday nights. It was me and him, dreaming big over cheap whiskey. I wasn't perfect. I'd had a few short-lived relationships. But photography always came first, which didn't sit well with most girlfriends. Dan got it. Though, he'd been through his own messy breakups, and we'd joke about being married to our art. Money was tight, but I was okay with that. I'd rather be broke and creating than stuck in a cubicle. My followers were growing, and I'd just booked a shoot with an outdoor gear company. $3,000, my biggest paycheck yet. I remember calling Dan, buzzing, saying, "Dude, we gotta celebrate." He laughed, said he was proud, but there was this pause, this tiny hitch in his voice. I brushed it off. Probably nothing, right? Looking back, I was naive. I thought our friendship was bulletproof, that we'd always have each other's backs. I didn't see how my wins were starting to feel like losses to him, how every step I took forward left him stuck in the same spot. I was too busy chasing light to notice the shadows creeping in. Things started shifting in ways I didn't catch at first. It was like watching a photo develop in a darkroom. Faint outlines you don't notice until the image sharpens. Dan and I were still tight, or so I thought. But by last spring, his vibe changed. He'd always been the loud one, cracking jokes, filling silences, but now he'd get quiet when I talked about my work. I'd show him a shot I was proud of, a misty forest scene for that outdoor gear brand, and he'd just nod, muttering, "Cool, man." No hype, no fist bumps. I figured he was stressed, his gigs were drying up, and he'd started driving for a rideshare app to cover rent. I didn't push him to talk. I knew he'd open up when he was ready. Then came the comments, subtle at first, like a jab you laugh off. We were at our usual dive bar, splitting a picture, when I mentioned a new client, a Portland magazine wanting lifestyle shots. Dan smirked, leaning back. "Must be nice, man, getting all these fancy gigs while the rest of us scrape by." His tone was light, but it stung. I brushed it off, saying, "You'll get your break. Dude, just keep at it." He rolled his eyes, took a long sip, and changed the subject. I told myself he was just having a bad day. But it kept happening. He'd drop little digs about my Instagram fame, or how I was too good for open mic nights now. I wasn't famous. 15,000 followers isn't exactly viral, but I was proud of my growth. I started hesitating to share good news, like when I got a DM from a Seattle ad agency. Instead of telling Dan, I texted my sister, Mia. She was stoked, sending me voice memos screaming, "Ethan, you're killing it." That should have been Dan's reaction, but I was avoiding him, walking on eggshells. Then I noticed him poking around my work online. He'd comment on my posts with backhanded stuff like, "Bold edit. Bro, did you borrow that filter?" Or, "Looks like you got lucky with that light." My followers didn't know our history, so they'd just like his comments. But I knew what he was doing, planting seeds of doubt. I confronted him once, half joking, over coffee. Dude, what's with the shade on my posts? He laughed it off, saying, just keeping you humble, Carter. I wanted to believe him, but my gut twisted. This wasn't the Dan who'd stayed up all night helping me edit photos for my first gallery show. The real red flag came at a mutual friend's barbecue last summer. I was chatting with some folks about a shoot I'd done for a local nonprofit, pro bono, to help their fundraiser. Dan, a few beers deep, cut in. Yeah, Ethan's all about the clout now. Bet he didn't even shoot those himself. The group laughed, thinking it was a joke, but I froze. His eyes had this edge, like he meant it. Later, I pulled him aside. What the hell, man? Why'd you say that? He shrugged, smirking. Just messing around. Don't be so sensitive. I let it go, but it stuck with me, like a splinter I couldn't dig out. I started seeing him less. I was busy with shoots, editing late into the night, and Dan wasn't reaching out as much either. When we did hang, he'd ask weirdly specific questions about my clients, my rates, how I got gigs, how much they paying you for that brewery shoot. He'd ask, casual but intense. I'd dodge, saying, enough to cover rent, but he'd press, like he was keeping score. I didn't know it then, but he was gathering ammo. My best friend, the guy I'd trusted with my dreams, was starting to see me as the enemy, and I was too caught up in my own grind to see the knife he was sharpening. By fall, things went from weird to ugly. I was riding high after landing a contract with a Portland outdoor brand. $5,000 for a full campaign, my biggest gig yet. I was planning to upgrade my gear, maybe even move to a better apartment, but then the messages started. I'd open my Instagram to find DMs from strangers. Is it true you faked your portfolio? Heard you're scamming clients. At first, I thought it was a troll, some random hater, but then I saw a thread on X posted by an anonymous account. Ethan Carter's a fraud. His photos are just stock images with filters. Don't hire him. It had screenshots of my work, side by side with random stock photos, claiming I'd stolen them. My heart sank. The comparisons were nonsense. Anyone with a basic eye for photography could see it, but the damage was done. The thread was getting traction. Retweeted by local creatives I respected. Clients started pulling away. The outdoor brand emailed. We're reconsidering our contract due to recent concerns. A wedding planner I'd shot for canceled a follow-up gig. No explanation. My inbox, usually buzzing with inquiries, went silent. I lost $2,000 in bookings in a week. I'd lie awake at night, scrolling through the hate, my chest tight. Photography wasn't just my job. It was my identity. Every accusation felt like a punch to the soul. I started doubting myself. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I'd been fooling everyone. I suspected Dan immediately. The X account was anonymous, but the wording felt too personal, like someone who knew my work inside out. I confronted him at his place, a cramped studio littered with empty energy drink cans and his old guitar. Dan, did you post that crap about me? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He leaned back on his couch, smirking. What? You think I've got time to play keyboard warrior? Sounds like you're paranoid, man. But his eyes didn't meet mine. And that smirk, it was the same one from the barbecue. I pushed harder. If it's not you, who is it? Nobody else knows my work like that. He laughed, cold and sharp. Maybe you're not as original as you think. Ethan, ever consider you're just not that good? That cut deeper than the X posts. This was Dan, the guy who'd been there for every milestone. Telling me I was nothing. I left his place shaking, not sure if I was angry or heartbroken. Back home, I checked the X thread again. It had grown, with more accounts piling on, some claiming I'd overcharged clients or faked my credentials. My follower count dropped by 2,000 overnight. I called Mia, my sister, crying for the first time in years. I don't get it. I told her, why would someone do this? She tried to calm me, but I could hear her worry. Ethan, you're talented. This is just noise. But it didn't feel like noise. It felt like my world collapsing. I stopped posting online. Every time I picked up my camera, my hand shook. What if they were right? What if I was a fraud? My savings were dwindling, $800 left after rent and bills. I started bartending again, pouring drinks for hipsters while my dreams gathered dust. Dan texted me once, acting like nothing happened. Yo, you good? Wanna grab a beer? I didn't reply. I couldn't. The betrayal was sinking in, and with it, a grief I didn't know how to name. I'd lost my best friend, my confidence, and the life I'd been building. All I could do was keep my head down, hoping the storm would pass. But it was only getting worse. Rock bottom hit me like a cold wave, the kind that knocks the breath out of you. By winter, I was a ghost of myself. My savings were gone, down to $200 after scraping by on bartending tips. I'd stopped shooting entirely. My camera sat on a shelf, collecting dust next to unpaid bills. My Instagram, once my pride, was a graveyard. I hadn't posted in 2 months, and my follower count was hemorrhaging down to 10,000, with more hate DMs rolling in. Fraud. Hack. Give it up, dude. Each one chipped away at me, until I started believing it. Maybe I was a fake. Maybe I'd been kidding myself all along. I was barely sleeping, surviving on coffee and self-doubt. My apartment felt like a cage, every corner filled with reminders of what I'd lost, prints I'd been proud of, now mocking me from the walls. I'd scroll X late at night, seeing the lies spread further. The anonymous account had posted again, now claiming I'd scammed a nonprofit I'd shot for. That one hurt the most. I'd done that job for free, pouring my heart into it. I tried reporting the account, but X's moderation was useless. The posts stayed up, racking up likes. I'd cut Dan out completely. No texts, no calls, nothing. But he was still everywhere. Mutual friends would mention him, saying he was going through a rough patch or just joking around. I wanted to scream. He's not joking. He's destroying me. But I didn't. I was too tired, too broken. I stopped going out, dodging invites from friends who didn't know the full story. My sister, Mia, called every week, but even her pep talks couldn't pull me out. "Ethan, you're better than this," she'd say. "Don't let some troll win." I'd mumble, "Yeah, sure," but inside, I was drowning. The lowest moment came in January. I got an email from the Portland magazine I'd shot for. They were pulling my photos from their upcoming issue. Due to credibility concerns, they wrote. That was it. No discussion. No chance to explain. I sat on my couch, staring at the email, feeling like someone had ripped out my spine. I'd poured everything into those shots, days hiking, editing until dawn, and now they were trash. I thought about quitting photography for good. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe I should have gotten a real job. I didn't eat that day, just sat there, numb, while the rain pounded my windows. I thought about Dan, how he'd laughed when I confronted him. That smirk haunted me. I wondered what I'd done to make him hate me this much. Was it my fault? Had I bragged too much, rubbed my wins in his face? The guilt mixed with anger, and I hated myself for both. I was 27, with no money, no gigs, and a reputation in tatters. My dream was dead, and I didn't know how to start over. One night, I almost deleted my Instagram. I was one click away, mouse hovering over deactivate account. When my phone buzzed, it was a DM from a local photographer I'd met once at a gallery show. "Hey, saw the crap online. I know your work's legit. Want to grab coffee and talk shop?" It was small, but it was the first kind message I'd gotten in weeks. I didn't reply right away. I was too raw, but it planted a tiny seed. Maybe I wasn't alone. Maybe I could fight back. But at that moment, sitting in the dark, I couldn't see a way out. All I could feel was the weight of everything I'd lost. Something shifted in February, like a crack in the ice letting light through. I was still a mess, bartending double shifts, avoiding my camera like it was cursed. But that DM from the photographer, Sarah, kept nagging at me. She didn't owe me anything. Yet she'd reached out, saw through the lies. It made me wonder who else might. I was tired of hiding, tired of letting Dan's poison define me. I didn't have a plan, but I knew I couldn't stay in that dark hole forever. I met Sarah for coffee at a cozy spot in southeast Portland. I was nervous, half expecting her to bring up the ex-posts, but she didn't. Instead, she talked about her own struggles, clients ghosting, creative burnout. "The online noise is brutal," she said, stirring her latte. "But your work? I've seen it. It's real. Don't let some hater steal that." Her words hit hard. For the first time in months, I felt seen, not as a fraud, but as Ethan, the guy who loved capturing moments. I told her about the rumors, leaving Dan's name out. She nodded. "No judgment. Prove them wrong," she said. "Show your process. People will see the truth." That night, I dug out my camera. It felt heavy, foreign, but I forced myself to shoot simple stuff, like the rain-slicked street outside my apartment. I posted one photo to Instagram. No caption, just raw. A few likes trickled in. No hate. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I started thinking about what Sarah said. Show the process. I'd always kept my work private, only posting polished shots. But maybe transparency was the way to fight back. If Dan wanted to call me a fake, I'd show the world. I wasn't. I started small, posting time-lapse videos of my edits on Instagram stories. I'd narrate, explaining how I scouted locations, adjusted settings, layered effects. It was terrifying, like bearing my soul, but the response was immediate. Followers commented, "This is so cool," and "Thanks for showing the behind the scenes." My DM shifted, less hate, more curiosity. A local coffee shop even reached out, asking for a small shoot. It was only $200, but it felt like a lifeline. I still hadn't confronted Dan again. Part of me wanted to call him out, but I knew it'd just feed his ego. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. I reached out to old clients, offering to reshoot for free to prove my work was mine. Most didn't reply. But one, a nonprofit I'd worked with, gave me a chance. They needed photos for a spring fundraiser. I poured everything into it, hiking at dawn to catch the light, editing until my eyes burned. When they posted my shots, they tagged me, saying, "Proud to work with Ethan Carter's incredible talent." That post got shared by a local influencer, and my follower count ticked up. The realization hit me slowly. Dan's lies only had power if I let them. I'd been so focused on what I'd lost, gigs, confidence, our friendship, that I'd forgotten what I still had. My skill, my passion, people who believed in me. Mia called one night, and I finally opened up about everything, including Dan. "He's jealous, Ethan," she said. "That's his problem, not yours. Keep doing you." She was right. I wasn't going to let his bitterness bury me. I started planning something bigger, a project to show the world who I really was. It was risky, but for the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope, like I could take back my story. By spring, I was clawing my way back. It wasn't easy. Self-doubt still crept in, and money was tight. But I was done letting Dan's lies define me. I leaned into Sarah's advice. Show the world my process, my truth. I started a YouTube channel, nothing fancy. Just me filming my shoots, scouting locations, tweaking settings, editing in real time. I'd narrate, raw and honest, about the grind, the failures, the small wins. This is me, Ethan Carter. I'd say, no filters, no fakes. The first video got 500 views, mostly friends and followers, but the comments were gold. "This is so real. Keep going, man." It felt like I was rebuilding my reputation frame by frame. I quit bartending to focus on photography full-time again. My savings were shot, so I took small gigs, $100 headshots, $300 product shoots, anything to keep going. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., hike to the Columbia Gorge for sunrise shots, then edit until midnight. My Instagram was growing again, hitting 12,000 followers, and the hate DMs slowed to a trickle. I reached out to every client I'd lost, sending them links to my videos. Proof of my work. Some ignored me, but others, like the nonprofit, came back. They hired me for another campaign, and their endorsement carried weight. Local creatives started sharing my posts, vouching for me. I wasn't just surviving, I was gaining ground. I decided to go big. I'd been dreaming of a personal project, a photo series on Portland's unsung heroes like street vendors, bus drivers, community gardeners. I pitched it to a local gallery, nervous as hell. To my shock, they said yes, offering me a small exhibit in June. I threw myself into it, spending every spare dollar on gas to drive around the city, capturing stories. I talked to my subjects, learned their lives, then poured that emotion into my shots. It was the most inspired I'd felt in years. My YouTube channel documented it all. Every muddy hike, every late-night edit. Views climbed to 5,000 per video, and my followers hit 15,000 again. Dan was a ghost by now. Mutual friends told me he was struggling gigless, stuck driving rideshare, posting bitter rants on X. I didn't feel sorry for him, but I didn't hate him either. He tried to break me, but I was stronger for it. One night, a friend forwarded me a screenshot. Dan, drunk at a bar, bragging about teaching me a lesson. It confirmed what I'd known but didn't want to admit. I saved it, not for revenge, but as a reminder. His lies weren't my truth. I started connecting with other creatives, building a network. Sarah introduced me to a videographer, and we collaborated on a short doc for a local festival. It got accepted, and suddenly, my name was out there again, untarnished. I wasn't rich. My bank account hovered at $1,500, but I was paying rent, eating real food, and creating work I loved. Mia flew up for a weekend, and we hiked Multnomah Falls, my camera in hand. "I'm proud of you," she said, and I nearly cried. For the first time, I felt like I was taking back my power, not just from Dan, but from the doubt he'd planted. I wasn't just a photographer, I was a storyteller, and no one could take that away. June was my turning point. The gallery exhibit for my Portland Unsung Heroes series was a small affair, but it felt huge. I'd poured months into it. Every shot, every story, every late night editing while questioning if I was good enough. The gallery was packed, maybe 50 people, but to me, it was a stadium. My photos lined the walls, a street vendor's weathered hands, a bus driver's tired smile, a gardener's dirt-streaked joy. People lingered, asked questions, felt the stories I'd captured. A local magazine editor was there and approached me afterward. "Ethan, these are incredible. Can we feature your series in our next issue?" I nodded, too stunned to speak. That feature, published in July, went viral locally, shared across X and Instagram. My follower count shot to 25,000 overnight. The X-Lies were dead, Dan's anonymous account had gone quiet, and the old threads were buried under my new work. Mutual friends started distancing themselves from him, not because I'd said anything, but because they'd seen the truth. One sent me a message, "Dude, Dan was out of line. Your work speaks for itself." I didn't need their validation, but it felt good. I heard Dan was still driving rideshare. His music dreams stalled. Part of me wanted to confront him, show him the magazine spread, but I didn't. He wasn't worth my energy. His lies had pushed me to prove myself, and in a weird way, I'd grown because of it. I landed more gigs, bigger ones, like a national outdoor brand and a Portland Arts Festival. My YouTube channel hit 10,000 subscribers, and I started monetizing it. Pulling in $500 a month, it wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to quit scraping by. I moved to a better apartment, one with actual sunlight, and hung my exhibit prints on the walls. Mia came to the gallery show, tearing up when she saw my work displayed. "You did this, Ethan," she said, "despite everything." That night, we got takeout and toasted to new beginnings. I felt whole again, like I'd reclaimed my name. The takeaway wasn't just about winning, it was about realizing my worth didn't depend on Dan or anyone else. Jealousy's a poison, but it only destroys if you let it. I learned to trust my craft, to lean on people like Sarah and Mia who saw me for me. I still shoot every day, chasing light, telling stories. The doubt still creeps, and sometimes old scars don't vanish, but I don't let it stop me. My camera is my weapon, my art's my truth, and no one can take that away.